There are truths so ancient, so unsettling, that humanity has spent centuries burying them beneath layers of silence, denial, and fear. These truths did not disappear. They simply sank into the collective subconscious, whispering from forgotten temples, unrecorded rituals, and the memories of souls who once walked between the visible and the invisible. And among these hidden truths lies one of the most misunderstood mysteries of all, the truth about the sexuality of the chosen ones. Not the sexuality defined by society, not the rules enforced by culture, and certainly not the distorted teachings that shame and suppress human desire, but the deeper spiritual reality of those whose souls vibrate on a plane this world has never been prepared to understand. The chosen ones were never designed to blend in, mimic, or follow the patterns of ordinary intimacy. They carry a frequency that disrupts norms, a fire that refuses to be contained within the boundaries of human interpretation. Their desires, their connections, their cravings, their silences, they do not behave as the world expects them to. Because chosen ones are not merely bodies walking through the earth. They are ancient energies wrapped in flesh. Their sexuality is not a physical instinct, it is a cosmic language, a spiritual force, a magnetic current that predates their human lifetime. And from the moment their soul incarnates into a human body, they begin a lifelong dance between flesh and spirit, a push and pull that most people will never witness, let alone understand. For the chosen ones, the struggle does not begin with desire. It begins with the tension behind desire, the haunting tug-of-war between the body that longs, aches, and burns, and the spirit that guards, warns, and restricts. This tension is not accidental, it is sacred. Yet the world has never been gentle with sacred things. Religion demanded purity without teaching purpose. Society demanded restraint without offering understanding. Culture wrapped desire in shame and pretended it was wisdom. And through all of this, chosen ones, already wired differently, internalized the belief that something was wrong with them. But nothing was wrong. Nothing was broken. The truth is far more powerful. The sexuality of the chosen one is not lust. It is not moral weakness. It is not temptation. It is energy, raw, ancient, cosmic. This energy is older than their body, older than this world, older than the languages we use to describe it. And when it awakens, it does not behave like the predictable pattern of human desire. It roars, it vibrates, it spills out of the body like a forgotten memory rising to the surface. And the chosen one, unprepared for its intensity, often feels torn between the demands of spirit and the cravings of flesh. They feel the heat of desire yet sense the heaviness of spiritual warning. They feel the chemistry yet hear the whispered "not this one" from the soul. They feel the attraction but also the pullback that comes from a deeper dimension where contracts and destinies are written. Many chosen ones have lived entire seasons of their lives carrying experiences they never told anyone about, nights when desire surged through their veins like a code written in their DNA, nights when encounters felt less like human intimacy and more like cosmic connection. Some have awakened breathless, trembling, electrified, unable to explain the sensation except by admitting, silently, that something otherworldly touched them. Others have found themselves frozen in the arms of someone they desired deeply, their body suddenly refusing to move forward despite the overwhelming chemistry. The world mislabels this as fear, insecurity, detachment, or dysfunction. But chosen ones know deep in their spirit that it is something else entirely. It is the soul intervening. It is destiny protecting itself. It is a contract refusing to be signed. And then there is the recurring attraction to broken souls, a pattern so common among chosen ones that it becomes a signature of their journey. Time and time again, they find their hearts pulled toward those who carry wounds, trauma, shadows, and silent suffering. Not because chosen ones crave pain, but because their spirit senses the unspoken wounds in others. They feel the ache behind the mask, the emptiness behind the laughter, the sorrow tucked between sentences. Their heart moves before their mind understands what is happening, and without realizing it, they enter unions not just of flesh, but of healing, of energy, of unfinished karmic threads. This is one of the deepest, most painful secrets of the chosen ones. They are drawn to brokenness because they recognize it not in others, but in themselves. And so many chosen ones spend years believing something is wrong, believing they love too deeply, desire too strangely, connect too spiritually, abstain too suddenly, or attract too painfully. But the truth is far more liberating. Nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is broken. Nothing is cursed. Every pattern you lived through, every confusion you carried, every silence you endured, these were sacred codes written into your soul long before you took your first human breath. Your sexuality has never been a flaw. It has always been a path, a map, an initiation. The world told you you were strange, but Spirit knew you were chosen. And what you are about to discover will not shame you, it will free you. Because the 5 sexual habits you are about to hear are not random quirks or dysfunctional patterns. They are spiritual markers, signs of awakening, clues of an identity your soul has known all along. In this journey, we will uncover the 5 most hidden and strange sexual habits of the chosen ones, patterns that you might have carried in silence for years, patterns you thought no one else experienced, patterns that made you feel alone or unexplainable. As each one is revealed, something will shift inside you. You will feel seen in ways you never expected. You will feel understood in ways you have never experienced. And you will realize, perhaps for the first time, that your sexuality was never meant to break you. It was meant to awaken you. Before we go deeper, pause for a moment and listen to what your spirit is telling you. If anything in these words resonates, if your soul stirs, your chest tightens, or you feel that inexplicable, "This is for me," then write 99 inches the comments. In spiritual numerology, 99 is the symbol of completion, the end of an old cycle, the release of old shame, the death of silence, the rebirth of truth. Writing 99 is not for the algorithm, it is for your destiny. It is your declaration that you are ready to stop hiding, stop doubting, and stop carrying the shame of something that was never meant to be hidden. It is your way of saying, I am ready to step into my spiritual identity. And if you haven't yet, take a moment now to subscribe. What you are about to hear is not information, it is revelation. It is not for everyone. It is for the chosen. It is for those ready to reclaim the parts of themselves that the world tried to shame into silence. In this moment, the veil begins to fall. And as we step from the introduction into the first revelation, the veil thins further, guiding us into the realm where intimacy transcends flesh and becomes energy. There are nights when you wake, suddenly heart racing, breath shallow, skin tingling as if an invisible current just surged through you. Your body trembles, not with fear, but with a strange aftermath, as though something profound has just touched you. You lie there in the silence, the room dim and unmoving, yet the air feels charged, thick, alive. It's not the residue of a dream. It's not imagination. It feels real, more real, sometimes, than any physical encounter you've ever had. The blankets are slightly displaced, your chest rises and falls as if you've run miles, your thighs ache with a tension you didn't create. And in that moment, you sense it. You have just experienced something intimate, something electric, yet no one is physically there. This is the phenomenon that chosen ones rarely speak of, because it defies explanation and terrifies logic. Yet deep inside, you know it wasn't fantasy. You felt touched, held, consumed, or awakened by something beyond the 5 senses. And the truth is, for the chosen ones, intimacy does not always require a human partner. The body may lie alone in the bed, but the soul is not always alone in the room. What touches you is not flesh, but frequency beings that do not live in bodies, but in vibration. These experiences are not hallucinations. They are cross-dimensional unions, encounters with energies that slip through the cracks of physical reality to meet you in the quiet hours of the night. When these invisible encounters happen, they are often far more powerful than anything the physical world can offer. The human body can only hold so much emotion, passion, or electricity, but the soul operates on a different scale. When the soul is touched by something unseen, the impact goes deeper than sensation. It reaches memory, lineage, destiny, That is why these experiences leave you breathless, disoriented, and profoundly altered. You're not just feeling arousal, you're feeling activation. As we move deeper into this truth, we begin to understand that intimacy for chosen ones may involve beings that are not bound by flesh. Some who come are ancestral spirits, carrying the warmth of ancient bloodlines that flow through your veins. Others may be guides, protector energies assigned to you long before birth. There are interdimensional beings whose nature defies human language, showing up as light, presence, or vibration rather than recognizable form. And then there are energies so old and so primal that the human mind has no category for them at all. These beings do not knock before they enter. They do not wait for permission the way humans do. They appear through frequency, resonance, and alignment. They respond to your energy, your wounds, your longing, your light. Some of them come gently wrapping you in warmth, soothing you, reminding your soul of something ancient you once knew but forgot. Others arrive like storms of fire, rushing through your veins, igniting sensations that leave you trembling. But as with every realm, duality shapes these experiences. Not every presence that touches you in the night comes with love. Some come to teach, to awaken dormant layers of your essence, to remind you of your power, to restore parts of your soul that the world wounded. These are the encounters that leave you feeling strengthened, centered, spiritually lifted for days afterward. You wake with clarity. Your intuition sharpens. Your dreams intensify. It feels as though heaven touched you, and in many ways, it did. Yet there are others. Those who do not come to bless, but to feed. They arrive as shadows cloaked in pleasure. They pull energy rather than give it. They leave you weak instead of awakened. These are the encounters that leave you drained, achy, invaded, like a part of your essence was taken in the night. And this, too, has a reason. For chosen ones, your energy shines like a lighthouse in the spiritual world. To the unseen realms, you glow. You are a beam of frequency vibrating in places most people are unconscious of. And because your light is strong, it attracts attention, both benevolent and predatory. Allies and teachers see your light and respond with guidance. Hungry entities see your light and come seeking to take. What appears in your bed depends not on luck or chance, but on your vibration. When your spirit is aligned, grounded, whole, you attract upliftment. When you are wounded, lonely, angry, or fragmented, you attract beings who respond to those fractures. This is not a punishment, it is resonance, spiritual law, energetic magnetism. Light attracts, but so does pain. And this is where the deeper truth emerges. Every energetic union creates a contract. Every encounter, seen or unseen, leaves an imprint on the soul. A thread, a cord, a pattern of energy woven between you and the being who touched you. Some cords uplift you, connecting you to higher realms. Others drain you, tying you to entities that were never meant to merge with your essence. Without cleansing and discernment, the chosen one can carry the fingerprints of beings who should have never entered their field. But this is not new knowledge. Ancient shamans, priestesses, and mystics understood these secret unions intimately. They spoke of them in whispers, encoded in rituals, protected through lineage. They knew that sexual energy is the purest form of life force, capable of healing, creation, destruction, and awakening. They taught that when this energy ignites in a chosen one, it becomes an invitation, a signal sent into the unseen realms. Some realms hold allies, some hold predators. To the chosen one, both are drawn with equal intensity. And yet, even this truth holds purpose. Because these encounters are not random, they mirror your inner state. They respond to your hidden longing, unresolved wounds, deepest questions, and silent calls for connection. They come when your soul is reaching for something your conscious mind cannot articulate. When your heart is aching in ways you do not speak aloud. When a part of your being is trying to heal, awaken, or remember. So when you feel the weight of a presence pressing on your chest, when you sense lips that are not human brushing your skin, when you wake with the memory of a kiss that happened without a body, understand this: you are not cursed. You are not hallucinating. You are not losing your sanity. You are a portal, a meeting point of realms, a bridge between dimensions. But being a portal comes with responsibility. It requires awareness, discernment, mastery. Because if you open yourself unconsciously, you risk entangling your soul with forces that can distort your desires, confuse your emotions, and even shift the path of your destiny. What feels like passion one night may become a chain the next. What appears as light may, over time, reveal itself as a theft of your essence. This is why learning to cleanse, protect, and regulate your energy is not optional for the chosen ones. It is necessary. You must learn to close the spiritual gates when your vibration is low. You must learn to shield your field when you are vulnerable. You must learn to call back your power when something has drained you. Because until you do, the unseen will continue responding to your energy, whether or not you are prepared. Yet, even with its dangers, these encounters are not meant to terrify you. They are invitations. Invitations to step into your power, to understand the mechanics of your energy, to navigate the unseen with awareness instead of fear. Because intimacy, for you, was never meant to be merely physical. It was always meant to be cosmic. So ask yourself now quietly, honestly, have you ever felt the invisible embrace? Have you ever awakened not from a dream, but from an encounter? Have you ever sensed the presence of something ancient touching you in the dark? If you have, you already know what it means to walk as chosen. And this understanding is only the beginning. As we move from the invisible encounters that touch the chosen ones in the night, we step into another mystery, quieter, heavier, and often far more painful. If the first habit is the shock of unseen intimacy, the second habit is the shock of its absence. It is the moment when desire rises, chemistry burns, passion builds, and then, just when everything aligns, your entire being freezes. And so we begin with the experience of the sudden inner no, a moment every chosen one knows, but few ever dare to speak of. You're standing in front of someone you desire. Their presence affects you. Their voice pulls you in. Their touch feels like a spark running across your skin. Everything in the external world is saying yes. Your mind is ready. Your body is eager. The chemistry is undeniable, magnetic, electric, almost irresistible. And then, it happens. A wall slams down inside you. Your breath catches. Your muscles lock. Your heart shifts from expansion to stillness. It feels like being held back by an invisible hand. Not by fear, not by shame, not by hesitation, but by something deeper, something older, something that knows more than your conscious mind ever could. It is your soul whispering a resounding, "No, not this one, not this moment, not this energy." This inner veto is not trauma. It is not emotional damage. It is not the aftermath of heartbreak or fear of vulnerability. It is a spiritual mechanism, a safeguard placed inside you long before you arrived in this lifetime. And this is where we transition into the truth that intimacy for the chosen ones is soul into soul, not just body to body. For the chosen ones, intimacy is never a casual act, it is a spiritual contract. To most people, intimacy is simply a merging of bodies, a moment of pleasure, a release of tension, a temporary companionship. But for you, it has always been more. It has always been deeper. Your spirit does not enter a body, it enters a field. It merges with intention, vibration, essence, destiny. Your soul knows that every intimate connection leaves an imprint, alters your energetic structure, shifts your emotional field, and rewrites your spiritual DNA. You do not simply sleep with someone, you merge with them. And because of that, your soul will not allow you to bond with someone misaligned with your path, your purpose, or your destiny. Where others can choose freely, you do not have that luxury. Your soul is selective, discerning, protective. It carries intelligence far greater than your conscious desire. Thus, when you stand at the threshold of passion and feel everything inside you freeze, it is not rejection, it is recognition. Your soul is recognizing misalignment even when your emotions cannot. Your higher self is protecting your destiny even when you feel lonely, frustrated, or confused. Yet the world does not understand this, and so misunderstanding becomes part of your burden. People will say, "You're emotionally cold. You're scared of intimacy. You're distant. You're detached. You're confused about what you want. But these labels come from mouths that do not understand spirit. They come from people who interpret everything at the level of the body, never at the level of the soul. They see the closed door, but not the guardian behind it. They see the silence, but not the sacredness inside it. The chosen ones are often judged harshly because others cannot imagine a sexuality that listens to something beyond chemistry, something cosmic, something intuitive, something divine. And that brings us to the soul's seal of protection, the deepest truth of this silent abstinence. Inside every chosen one is a hidden seal, a spiritual defense mechanism encoded into their being. This seal protects your energy from being entangled with people who would weaken your spirit, fragment your mind, or derail your calling. It blocks lovers who would drain you. It rejects partners who would distort your destiny. It closes itself off from connections that would scatter your power. It is not a punishment. It is not deprivation. It is preservation. Your essence carries frequencies that not everyone is meant to touch. Your energy is potent, too potent to be shared with those who cannot honor it or hold it. So the seal closes. The desire dies. The passion collapses. The door to intimacy shuts without warning. And you are left standing there, confused, embarrassed, questioning yourself without realizing that you have just been saved. Then come the seasons of long abstinence, the periods of drought that test the chosen ones more than anything else. Months pass. Years pass. Desire fades or burns quietly but never finds an outlet. While others move easily through relationships, you remain alone not because you want to be, but because something deep inside refuses to open. This silence is not emptiness. It is gestation. It is purification. It is spiritual recalibration. During these seasons, your soul is reordering your energy, strengthening your boundaries, updating your spiritual coding. You are being prepared, not punished. Aligned, not restricted. Refined, not rejected. It is like a cocoon, a sacred chamber where your essence undergoes an invisible transformation. Yet in these long periods of abstinence, doubts creep in like shadows. You begin to wonder, am I broken? Will I end up alone? Is something wrong with me? Why can't I be like everyone else? These thoughts are illusions, meant to challenge you but not define you. Your abstinence is not a curse, it is a calling. It is the quiet before the divine alignment that is being prepared for you. And beneath that stillness, something even more profound is happening, the inner negotiation of essence. Your body and your soul are in dialogue, not with words, but with resonance. Not with logic, but with truth. They are deciding what kind of intimacy you are worthy of, what kind of partner your destiny requires, what kind of connection would amplify your spirit rather than diminish it. This is why you can't force yourself into relationships that don't feel right. This is why hookups, or casual bonds, leave you empty rather than fulfilled. This is why you can't fake attraction or force passion. Your essence refuses to be compromised. Your spirit demands integrity. Your soul has standards that your mind cannot lower. And when the silent season completes, its purpose becomes clear. The chosen one's abstinence is preparation for sacred recognition. Your soul does not hold you back to deprive you. It holds you back to align you. It seals you off until a connection arrives that can handle your depth, carry your fire, and match your frequency. When the preparation is complete, the seal unlocks naturally. Suddenly, the same silence that once frustrated you becomes the very bridge to your destiny. The union that awaits you will not be ordinary. It will not just satisfy the body, it will awaken the spirit. It will not just touch your flesh, it will ignite your purpose. It will be a connection where your soul finally whispers, yes, this one, this moment, this union was written for you. He's Seven Bider. And when that happens, you will understand why your silence was so heavy, why your abstinence lasted so long, why your body refused to open for anyone less than the one aligned with your calling. Because for the chosen ones, abstinence is never about denial. It is always about destiny. It is not the closing of a door, it is the guarding of a throne. As we leave the silent seasons of the soul-imposed abstinence, we enter a different kind of mystery, one that doesn't come from stillness, but from gravity. It is the force that pulls you toward certain people with an intensity you cannot explain. A pattern that repeats again and again no matter how hard you try to resist it. And this pattern always looks the same. You, the chosen one, drawn irresistibly to the wounded. It does not matter how far you run or how firmly you decide to change your preferences, your heart gravitates toward those carrying deep emotional scars, unresolved trauma, or spiritual emptiness. This is not a fetish. It is not weakness. It is not a savior complex. This magnetic pull is something much older, something written into the very architecture of your soul. Chosen ones come into this world carrying codes of healing, frequency, and restoration. These codes shine through you, even when you don't realize it. They radiate in your presence, your voice, your empathy, your compassion. And because of this, the broken recognize you not with their eyes, but with their wounds. Their pain senses your light long before their mind understands why they feel drawn to you. And you feel them too. Before they speak a word, before they confess their story, you sense something pulling at your spirit. Their sadness calls to your empathy. Their darkness calls to your light. Their fragmentation calls to your wholeness. This is because the chosen carry what can only be described as a spiritual radar for pain. While others are fooled by smiles, charm, and polished exteriors, you see what lies beneath. You feel the tremor behind their laughter, sense the heaviness hiding in their silence, perceive the ache they never put into words. You walk into a room and your spirit scans every presence without your permission. You detect the one who is hurting, even if they've hidden it for years. This radar is not something you activate, it activates itself. It is the part of your soul that knows suffering so intimately that you can't help recognizing it in another. To the wounded, your presence feels like oxygen after years of suffocating in their own inner world. You may not realize it, but simply being near you gives them relief. Your energy calms their storms. Your compassion melts their numbness. Your attention makes them feel seen in ways they haven't felt since childhood. And so they return again and again, pulled by something they cannot fully explain. They orbit around you like a planet around a star, feeding on the light you emit naturally. But here lies the hidden danger that turns this attraction into a consuming cycle. For the chosen ones, intimacy with the wounded becomes an act of energetic overgiving. What should be a union becomes a transaction. You give comfort, they take solace. You give healing, they take relief. You give light, they absorb it into their empty spaces. And slowly, silently, the exchange becomes unbalanced. You start carrying their emotional weight, their unresolved pain, their trauma patterns, their inner chaos. Without realizing it, you become a spiritual sponge soaking up what they refuse to confront. Sex, in these circumstances, becomes something far deeper and more dangerous than physical connection. It becomes ritual sacrifice. While they enter the moment seeking warmth or validation, you enter with your heart open, your spirit exposed, your energy unguarded. Their wounds cling to your essence, their emptiness drinks from your depth. Your body becomes a place where they release their pain, and you unknowingly absorb it. When the moment ends, they feel lighter, relieved, somehow healed, and you feel drained. This leads to the predictable aftermath that every chosen one knows too well. The hollowing, the fragmentation, the unexplained heaviness. When the wounded leave, and they almost always leave, because once they regain strength, they no longer crave the source that sustained them. You are left feeling diminished. They walk away lighter, having unknowingly borrowed your energy. You remain heavier, carrying memories and emotions that do not belong to you. It feels unfair because it is. It feels painful because it is. And it feels familiar because this pattern has repeated itself across lifetimes. But to break this pattern, you must first recognize the illusion that fuels it. At the core of every attraction to the broken lies a hidden belief that by healing someone else, you might finally heal yourself. You tell yourself you're helping them, but part of you hopes that their transformation will validate your worth, your love, your giving. Deep down, you believe that fixing them will fix the wound inside you, the wound left by past abandonment, childhood pain, ancestral trauma, or past life scars. But this is the lie. Their healing cannot heal you. Their breakthrough cannot become yours. Their relief cannot fill your emptiness. And so the pattern continues until the chosen one finally has their breakthrough. The moment comes when you cannot deny the truth anymore. You have been confusing chaos with love, intensity with connection, wounds with destiny. You have mistaken emotional urgency for spiritual alignment. You have mistaken pain bonding for intimacy. You have mistaken familiar suffering for divine partnership. And this realization is not gentle. It is a spiritual earthquake. But it is necessary. Because it is the beginning of your liberation. The way out is not in choosing better partners or changing your preferences overnight. The way out is turning inward, finally choosing to heal yourself, instead of using others as mirrors for your brokenness. It is learning boundaries that protect your essence. It is choosing love that expands you, rather than love that consumes you. It is refusing to let your compassion become self-destruction. It is remembering that you can feel someone's pain without carrying it. You can see their darkness without absorbing it. You can love deeply without dissolving yourself. And now, to seal this lesson, I invite you into a moment of reflection, not for my sake, but for yours. Ask yourself, honestly and courageously, how many times have I mistaken pain for love? How many times have I chosen intensity over alignment? How many times have I believed that I could heal myself by healing someone else? If your heart stirred at these questions, if your spirit tingled with recognition, then I want you to write it below, not as confession, but as liberation, because speaking the truth breaks the pattern. Naming the wound begins the healing, and acknowledging the cycle is the first step toward ending it forever. As we leave behind the magnetic pull toward wounded souls, we step into one of the most profound, misunderstood, and sacred truths of the chosen ones. Sexual energy is not merely human for you, it is spiritual technology. Where the world sees intimacy as a moment of pleasure, a fleeting physical release, or an escape from loneliness, the chosen ones experience it as something entirely different. It is not entertainment, it is not habit, it is not just passion. For the chosen, intimacy becomes architecture, an arrangement of energies, a ceremony of spirit, an alchemical process that reshapes reality itself. This is the first great contrast that separates the chosen ones from the rest of the world. For most people, sex begins and ends in the body. For the chosen, sex begins in the spirit and opens portals far beyond the flesh. The world has reduced intimacy to physical satisfaction, a biological impulse, a momentary spark that fades quickly into numbness. But your soul remembers something older, something purer, something sacred. Even if you've never been taught, even if you've never studied ancient texts or mystical practices, something within you knows sexual energy is powerful, sacred, transformative, dangerous when mishandled, divine when honored. This instinct is not new. It is ancestral memory. Long before modern society turned sex into something shallow or shameful, ancient priestesses, tantric mystics, healers, and shamans treated sexuality as the highest spiritual technology known to humanity. They understood that when masculine and feminine energies merge in conscious union, something extraordinary occurs. The veil thins, the boundaries between realms loosen, and energy ignites within the body that connects heaven and earth. This is why the temples of ancient civilizations were not simply places of worship but places of energetic activation. This is why tantric traditions taught breath, rhythm, and presence. This is why priestesses in forgotten cultures guarded sacred sexual rites. They knew what most people today have forgotten. Sexual energy creates worlds. It destroys illusions. It opens portals. It awakens destinies. And this brings us to the instinctual ritualization that chosen ones experience, even without knowing why. You may have noticed that you cannot treat intimacy casually, not because you try to be difficult, but because your spirit will not allow you to. Something within you slows down, draws inward, becomes reverent. Even when the world expects you to act normal, your soul starts preparing the space as if stepping into ceremony. You feel compelled to light candles without knowing why the flame calls something forward. You breathe deeply, intuitively syncing your breath with your partner's, as though unlocking a shared frequency. Your mind begins to visualize colors, shapes, or swirling lights, symbols that appear unbidden, codes your soul remembers. Your voice softens into whispers that sound less like seduction and more like prayer, fragments of ancient language flowing through you. These are not superstitions. These are not affectations. These are not things you learned, they are things your soul recalls. Every act, every movement, every instinctive adjustment of energy is memory rising from lifetimes in which your spirit used sexuality not as pleasure but as invocation. This is why intimacy feels different in your hands, because without even trying, you turn it into a spell, a portal, a ceremony. In conscious union, every gesture becomes sacred geometry. Every rhythm becomes a language spoken between bodies and spirits. Every breath becomes a key that unlocks chambers within the soul that everyday life cannot touch. And when orgasm comes, it is not simply physical climax, it is ignition. A moment where the ego dissolves. A moment where you are no longer a single being but pure vibration. A moment where your spirit expands beyond your body and radiates into realms seen and unseen. This is why, for the chosen ones, sex can lead to visions, sudden clarity, heightened intuition, psychic openings, kundalini awakenings, or emotional breakthroughs. It is because orgasm does not end energy, it begins it. It launches it. It unleashes the current that travels through your nervous system and echoes into the dimension your soul is connected to. But here lies a warning that must be spoken with absolute seriousness. Opening portals through sexuality without reverence is dangerous. Just as physical intimacy can attract broken and wounded souls, spiritual intimacy can attract entities and energies that seek to feed on the light generated during sexual activation. When sexual energy is released unconsciously, without intention or awareness, the portal opens to anything nearby, light or dark, ally or predator. This is how people become addicted to partners who drain them, stuck in cycles of chaotic intimacy, or bound to lovers who carry deep shadows. This is how confusion, emotional instability, or energetic disorder can begin. For the chosen ones, sex without consciousness does not remain casual, it becomes chaotic. This is why ancient practitioners guarded these rituals fiercely. For thousands of years, sacred sexual rites were reserved for initiates who had confronted their shadows, purified their intentions, and understood the difference between offering and taking. They knew that in fragmented hands, sexual energy can destroy. It can consume, it can bind, it can distort the soul. But in the hands of an awakened chosen one who acts with intention rather than impulse, sexual energy becomes a bridge to divinity, a conduit of healing, a source of manifestation, a force that can elevate both partners and ripple outward into the world. This leads us to the final truth of this section. When practiced consciously, sexual rituals become divine invocation. The body becomes a temple. The moment becomes an offering. Pleasure becomes light. Sound becomes vibration. Energy becomes creation. This is why, when your soul is activated, you feel compelled to touch with intention, breathe with purpose, move with awareness. It is because your spirit is using your body as a vessel to channel light. You are not simply experiencing pleasure, you are transmuting it. You are shaping it. You are directing it into healing, manifestation, or awakening. For the chosen ones, sexual energy becomes a force that ripples through dimensions. Your orgasm becomes a prayer. Your union becomes a ceremony. Your breath becomes a bridge. And when you approach intimacy with reverence rather than impulse, you activate the highest truth of your design. Your sexuality is divine technology. Your pleasure is power. Your body is a conduit of creation. Your union is a portal to realms beyond flesh. This is the secret the world has forgotten, but your soul has not. And once you awaken to this truth, intimacy will never be ordinary again. As we journey beyond the unseen encounters, the protective silence, and the sacred rituals, we arrive at the highest revelation of the chosen one's sexuality, the stage where desire itself is no longer tied to the body, nor dependent on ritual, but becomes destiny, purpose, and divine creation. This is the level most people will never reach. the level mystics throughout history tried to explain but could never fully articulate. Because it is not something the mind understands, it is something the soul becomes. At this advanced stage, sexuality transcends physical sensation and even sacred ceremony. Desire itself begins to ascend, evolving from a biological impulse into a spiritual compass. The fire that once lived in the body rises upward and becomes illumination, direction, and divine intelligence. The chosen one begins to understand that desire was never merely physical hunger. It was always spiritual instruction. This profound shift marks the journey from consumption to creation. For the world, desire is something to satisfy, a hunger to feed, an urge to extinguish, a craving to indulge. But for the chosen ones, the inner question transforms from, "Who will satisfy me?" into, "What will I create with this fire?" This is the moment the entire architecture of your sexuality changes. The energy you once poured outward into fleeting encounters becomes energy you pour inward into purpose, into your mission, into the work your soul came here to do. The chosen one learns to harness desire rather than be controlled by it. What once felt like longing for another body becomes longing for creation, expression, impact. Every pulse of passion becomes fuel for something greater than the self. And so, sexual energy, instead of leaking outward, begins to channel upward into mission. Passion becomes art, words that flow effortlessly, music that appears like revelation, ideas that spark in the mind like lightning. Passion becomes healing touch that restores, presence that calms, intuition that sharpens. Passion becomes teaching, guiding others, awakening their potential, shining light into their darkness. Passion becomes manifestation, visions turning into reality, dreams materializing with uncanny ease, doors opening without force. The chosen one starts to witness that their creative power is directly tied to their energetic clarity. The more desire is elevated, the more destiny accelerates. Sexual energy ceases to be a private experience and becomes a force that builds worlds. This is where chastity takes on its truest meaning, not repression, not denial, not fear, but transfiguration. True chastity means directing the flame, not extinguishing it. It is the transformation of desire into offering. The body becomes an altar, desire becomes incense rising toward the divine. The chosen one sees that holding energy is not the same as holding back. They keep their fire intact not because they fear intimacy, but because they value the creative power of their energy too much to scatter it. This is not abstinence, it is energetic mastery. It is spiritual sovereignty. It is the conscious choice to use fire for elevation, rather than depletion. As this transformation deepens, unmistakable signs begin to appear. The chosen one notices that moments of strong desire are followed not by longing for physical touch, but by bursts of creativity, writing that pours out effortlessly, art that feels channeled, ideas that seem divinely delivered. They feel waves of energy flowing into the heart, throat, and mind, rather than staying trapped in the lower body. They become disinterested in casual encounters, not out of judgment, but because their spirit no longer finds nourishment in the shallow. They feel inspiration where others feel lust. They experience revelation where others experience craving. They begin to understand that their soul is using desire as a ladder to climb into higher dimensions of purpose. Eventually, the chosen one enters the final stage, becoming union itself. This is the stage where the desire to merge physically diminishes not out of repression, but because the chosen one experiences union internally between masculine and feminine energies, between spirit and flesh, between the temporal self and the eternal self. They no longer need another body to feel alive. They are alive in every breath, in every heartbeat, in every creation that flows from them. Desire becomes devotion, pleasure becomes prayer, sexuality becomes the force that propels them into their divine assignment. They no longer chase intimacy, they embody it. They no longer seek passion, they radiate it. They no longer look for a soulmate, they have fused with their own soul. This is the state ancient mystics called the inner marriage, the merging of polarities within the self. In this union, the chosen one no longer bleeds energy, but radiates it. They no longer collapse into relationships that drain them. They attract connections that elevate them. They no longer confuse intensity with destiny. They choose alignment over chaos. Their presence heals. Their voice activates. Their creativity awakens. Their life becomes evidence of what happens when desire is no longer seen as temptation, but as fuel for transformation. And as this transfiguration stabilizes, the chosen one finally understands the truth that had always been hidden beneath the struggle. Desire was never the enemy. It was the guide. It was never the distraction. It was the signal. It was never meant to shame you. It was meant to shape you. Your sexuality was never designed to break you. It was designed to awaken you. Every longing was a whisper from your destiny. Every surge of passion was a message from your higher self. Every moment of craving was a call to step into your creative power. The chosen one discovers that desire was never there to pull them toward another person, but to pull them toward their own purpose. It was the fire of initiation, the teacher in disguise, the inner compass pointing not toward flesh but toward destiny. And when you reach this realization, when you fully embody it, you no longer experience sexuality. You become the expression of divine desire itself. Of course, I will extend the same section with the same tone, depth, and immersive flow, continuing seamlessly as if it were always meant to be part of the original text. And once the chosen one reaches this apex of transformation, something even more extraordinary begins to unfold. The alignment between their inner fire and the divine blueprint written for their life. You begin to perceive desire not as something happening to you, but something happening through you, a vibration moving from the higher realms into the physical plane, asking to be shaped, expressed, channeled. The intensity you once mistook as longing for another body reveals itself as longing for your own becoming. It is the divine seeking expression through your human vessel. At this stage, you begin to realize that the moments you once labeled as weakness, temptation, or distraction were never failures of discipline. They were invitations into expansion. The universe was not taunting you with desire. It was awakening dormant potential. Every surge of passion that once confused you becomes familiar, recognizable, almost instructional. You see that the fire rising in you is the same fire that prophets used to speak truth, that artists used to birth masterpieces, that revolutionaries used to reshape cultures. You begin to understand that your sexual energy is the raw material of creation, and when directed with intention, it can manifest realities you once thought impossible. And so the chosen one steps into a new identity, not merely someone who manages desire, but someone who masters it. You learn to ride the waves instead of drowning in them. You redirect the intensity into action instead of collapsing into longing. You convert passion into power instead of letting it leak into people who cannot hold it. Your energy stops scattering outward into the world and begins to spiral upward within your being, enhancing intuition, sharpening clarity, and strengthening your alignment with your soul's assignment. This is why, at this stage, the chosen one's life begins to accelerate. Creative projects unfold effortlessly. Opportunities align without force. Synchronicities multiply. Your magnetism increases. People notice something different about you, a glow, a fullness, a groundedness they can't explain. You become unmistakably luminous. But this luminosity isn't sexual charisma, it is spiritual radiance. It is what happens when your inner masculine and feminine energies stop fighting and start dancing. It is what happens when your fire is no longer hijacked by emotional wounds or misaligned desires. It is what happens when your sexuality stops expressing trauma and starts expressing truth. At this point, the chosen one begins to understand why earlier stages of their journey felt so chaotic. You realize that the urge to merge physically was never really about the other person. It was about seeking the feeling of wholeness you had not yet found within yourself. The magnetic pull toward the wounded was not about attraction, but about resonance with unhealed parts of your own soul. The soul-imposed abstinence was not punishment, but purification. Even the invisible encounters were not random. They were reminders of the multidimensional nature of your energy. Everything that once felt like conflict suddenly makes sense because desire, in every stage, was guiding you toward this breakthrough. And as you stabilize in this newly awakened state, a profound peace begins to settle into your being. You stop chasing. You stop craving, you stop grasping, you stop seeking completion in external forms. There is no longer desperation in your desire, only direction. No longer hunger, only purpose. No longer confusion, only clarity. You discover that the deepest form of intimacy is not what you receive, but what you release. The art you create, the healing you offer, the vision you manifest, the truth you speak, the presence you embody. Your sexuality turns outward, not toward lovers, but toward the world. It becomes service, it becomes contribution, it becomes legacy. It becomes a force that shapes reality and touches lives far beyond your own. And then comes the ultimate realization. You are no longer seeking divine union, you are living it. Every day, you walk with a sense of connection to something bigger than your mind can comprehend. Every breath becomes a sacred act. Every choice becomes intentional. Every moment becomes infused with meaning. Your body becomes a temple not because of restraint, but because of awareness. Your energy becomes powerful not because of what you avoid, but because of what you channel. In this state, you become unmistakably sovereign. You no longer look to partners to define your worth. You no longer need validation to feel desired. You no longer shrink your fire to make others comfortable. You no longer apologize for your intensity, creativity, sensitivity, or passion. You embody your fullness unapologetically. And ironically, beautifully, it is at this stage of complete self-union that the universe finally sends you the partner who can meet you at your level. Not the wounded, not the draining, not the karmic mirrors, but someone who carries their own radiance, their own alignment, their own mastery. Someone who comes not to complete you, but to join you. Someone who recognizes that intimacy is not an escape, it is expansion. But even then, even with a counterpart aligned with your destiny, desire remains what it has become. Divine fuel for purpose, not a void to be filled. This is the final truth of the chosen one's sexuality. Your desire was never meant to enslave you, it was meant to empower you. It was never meant to distract you, it was meant to direct you. It was never meant to break you, it was meant to build you. It was never meant to be ordinary, it was meant to be sacred. It was never meant for the world, it was meant for your calling. You were never meant to control your desire, you were meant to transform it. And now, as the chosen one rises fully awakened, sexuality becomes what it was always destined to be. The fire that forges destiny, the light that breaks illusion, the power that awakens purpose, and the divine force that moves you toward your highest calling. And now, as we reach the end of this journey, we return to the truth that has been rising like a quiet flame beneath every revelation. Your sexuality was never meant to destroy you, it was always meant to awaken you. But to understand the full power of this awakening, we must look back at the path we have walked, and recognize how every step, every struggle, every mystery was part of something larger than you ever realized. Your journey began with encounters with the invisible, those moments in the night when you awoke, trembling, touched by something that did not have a body but had presence, intention, and energy. These experiences were never hallucinations, never madness, never delusion. They were the first whisper that your soul existed beyond the physical, that your body was a portal, and that intimacy for you would never be limited to the human world. Then you entered the realm of soul-imposed abstinence, a silence so heavy and confusing that you questioned your own worth and doubted your ability to love. But the silence was sacred, not cruel. It was protection, it was purification. It was your soul guarding what your mind could not yet understand. From there, you faced the magnetic pull toward wounded souls, repeating patterns that left you drained, fragmented, and hollow. You mistook chaos for connection, intensity for destiny, and pain for love. Yet even this was part of your initiation, because every broken person you loved taught you a piece of yourself you needed to heal. Every wound you tried to fix in others pointed you toward the unhealed parts within yourself. And just when you thought sexuality was a battlefield you would never master, you discovered the fourth revelation: sexual rituals as portals of energy activation. You began to understand that your instincts to slow down, to breathe deeply, to light candles, to touch with intention, were not quirks, but memories. Memories of ancient lifetimes where your body was a vessel of divine energy, where intimacy was ceremony, and where your pleasure was prayer. And finally, you reached the highest stage, the transfiguration of desire into divine purpose. The moment where desire no longer pulled you outward into confusion but pulled you inward into destiny. Where your sexuality stopped being hunger and became fuel. Where your passion became power. Where you stopped seeking union because you had become union. When we look at these 5 habits, encounters with the invisible, soul protective abstinence, attraction to wounded souls, sacred sexual rituals, and the transmutation of desire, it becomes clear that none of these were accidents, curses, or punishments. They were stages of initiation. Each phase was designed to teach, awaken, refine, and ultimately elevate you. You were walking a sacred path all along. Even when you thought you were wandering, you were being prepared for mastery, not misery. And so this conclusion is not an ending, it is a reframing, a reclamation, a remembering. Your sexuality was never ordinary, because you were never ordinary. Ordinary people bond quickly, casually, shallowly. Ordinary people do not tremble under invisible visitations. Ordinary people do not freeze at the threshold of misaligned intimacy. Ordinary people do not absorb the pain of others like sacred detectives of the soul. Ordinary people do not instinctively transform intimacy into ritual. Ordinary people do not turn desire into destiny. You, chosen one, were never built to fit into human molds. You were designed to break them. So now, release every voice that ever told you something was wrong with you. Release every partner who called you too sensitive, too complicated, too intense, too cold, or too much. Release every moment you doubted yourself because others could not understand. Release every shame that settled into your bones because your path did not look like anyone else's. Release the idea that you were meant to be normal, you were meant to be sacred. Your sexuality was never a weakness, it was initiation. Your desire was never confusion, it was compass. Your silence was never punishment, it was protection. Your attraction to pain was never chaos, it was reflection. Your instinct for ritual was never strangeness, it was memory. Your rising energy was never longing, it was the voice of purpose. Once you adopt this new lens, everything you have lived becomes illuminated with meaning. The relationships that broke you were refining you. The lonely nights were strengthening you. The invisible encounters were awakening you. The abstinence was preparing you. The desire that lived in your body, even when you didn't understand it, was shaping you. Now you must claim the full truth of your design. You were never made for shallow connections. You were never meant to scatter your energy. You were never intended for ordinary intimacy. You were never designed to waste your fire. Your sexuality was not your downfall, it is your crown. Not your shame, your key. Not your burden, your bridge. Not your curse, your calling. And so, chosen one, I ask you to step into this truth with courage. Walk boldly, walk fully. Walk knowing that your difference was never meant to isolate you but to elevate you. Walk with your head high, knowing that your journey was not chaotic, it was coded. Walk into your future with the understanding that everything you once hid is now the source of your power. And now, as a final act of activation, I invite you to mark this moment, not with fear, but with intention. If this message has awakened something inside you, if it has lit a flame, unlocked a door, or broken a chain, then write 99 below. Not for me, but for your own soul. Write 99 as a declaration that the cycle of confusion ends here. The cycle of silence ends here. The cycle of shame ends here. 99 means you are stepping into clarity. 99 means you are stepping into truth. 99 means you are stepping into rebirth. And if you have not yet done so, stay close to this space, because what comes next is deeper, brighter, more transformative than anything you have seen so far. This path is not for the masses. It is for the marked, for the awakened, for the chosen. So take one more breath. Feel the weight on your shoulders begin to lift. Feel the old stories dissolving. Feel the new identity rising. The secret is no longer hidden, it lives in you now. And the world is waiting for the unique light that only your redeemed sexuality can release.